How long should you rest during intervals? When I first started running, I thought the goal of intervals was to push as hard as possible and take as little rest as I could. Back home in Norway, I used to do the famous 4 by 4 minutes with just 2 minutes rest, and I believed the less I recovered, the fitter I'd get. But I was wrong, and it actually held me back. Over the years, I've gone from that mindset to running a 2:46 marathon and now coaching other runners. And one thing I've learned is this: rest isn't wasted time. It's what transforms the workout and makes you faster. And it's not only about how much you rest, it's also about what you do during the rest, the type of workout you're doing, and the level of fitness you're at. All of that changes the impact. So here's what's coming up in this video. First, we'll cover how much rest to take for different types of workouts, like threshold, VO2 max, and speed. Then we'll talk about whether you should stop, walk, or jog during your recovery. And after that, I'll share how I use heart rate recovery to individualize rest for my athletes. Finally, I'll wrap it up with clear principles and examples you can take into your own training. And I value your time, so I want this video to be structured and to the point. Let's get into it. Why rest matters. Rest isn't wasted time. It changes what system you're training. Shorter rest keeps your oxygen consumption and lactate levels elevated. That's great for endurance and aerobic development. Longer rest lets your muscles recharge their energy system, which is what you need for top-end speed and crisp mechanics. Active recovery, walking or easy jogging, helps clear lactate and keeps your body ready to repeat quality reps. And heart rate recovery, that's how quickly your heart rate drops in the first minute. It's one of my favorite tools as a coach. If it drops fast, you can usually go again sooner. If it stays high, you need more rest. So to figure out your optimal rest, you first need to understand the goal of your workout. Is your goal speed or endurance? And I know it's tempting to say both, but if you've watched my beginner runner playlist, you know that the most effective training focuses on one clear purpose per session. So let me walk you through the main type of intervals: threshold, VO2 max, race pace, and speed, and how to approach the rest for each. Threshold intervals are designed to build your aerobic engine, the ability to hold a strong, steady pace for a long time without falling apart. Typical examples would be 4 to 10 minutes at threshold or 1K repeats right around that effort. Rest here should be short, so about 45 to 90 seconds. Why? Because you want to keep the stress continuous. Too much rest and the workout becomes mini time trials. Too little rest and your form breaks down. Think of threshold intervals as rhythm work. You want to feel strong and controlled, not like you're racing each rep. VO2 max intervals. So VO2 max work is about racing your ceiling, training your body to use oxygen more effectively at high intensities. Examples are 3 to 5 minutes hard, repeated several times. Here I recommend a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio. So if you're running 3 minutes hard, take 2 to 3 minutes of rest. And the key is to allow just enough recovery to repeat a high effort, but not so much that your body fully resets. So you should start the next rep feeling ready, but not fresh like at the first one. 5K and 10K pace sessions. These workouts bridge the gap between threshold and VO2. They're often used to sharpen race pace and build specific endurance. Think of a session like 6 times 1K at 10K pace, or 8 times 600 at 5K pace. So for 10K pace, take about 60 to 90 seconds of rest, and for 5K pace, go a little longer, so 90 to 120 seconds. And the goal is to keep the quality high, hitting the pace consistently while still staying aerobic. You want to feel strong, not gas. Speed, neuromuscular, hill sprints. Now for speed or hill sprints, the focus is on mechanics, explosiveness, and efficiency. That means recovery needs to be long. For short strides, 10 to seconds fast, take 60 to 120 seconds of walking or standing. For true hill sprints, rest even longer, 2 to 3 minutes. Here the full recovery is the whole point. So if your next rep is slower or your form breaks down, you didn't rest enough. Tempo or steady efforts. So finally, tempo or steady runs are about sustained effort. These could be 20 to 40 minutes continuous or split into blocks like 2 times 10 minutes. If you split them, keep the rest very short, so 1 to 60 seconds. Think of it as a sip of water and then back into rhythm. The purpose is steady pressure, not interval spikes. Now, here's the biggest mistake I see as a coach, and one I made myself for years. That mistake is running intervals at the wrong intensity. I used to think the goal was to run as fast as I could for the whole rep, and longer intervals, run slower, but still push to the max. So the problem was I was always overshooting. And as someone who is competitive and chasing big goals, that approach led me straight into injuries. And now I use heart rate to guide intensity, not just pace. So heart rate measures your internal load, so it captures things like heat, wind, terrain, and fatigue, all the things pace alone can't. And once you get intensity right, the amount of rest you take actually works with your training instead of against it. And if you want to learn more about this training method, I have a whole heart rate training playlist linked for you. Stop, walk, or jog. One of the biggest questions with recovery is, should you stop, walk, or jog? And my answer is, it depends on the purpose of the workout and on the athlete. Standing completely still usually makes your heart rate drop faster. And that's why I often give standing rest if the intent of the session is to make sure each rep matches the target effort. This is especially helpful if an athlete's heart rate recovery is slower. More rest ensures they can execute the workout correctly without dragging fatigue into the next rep. But sometimes we want to practice running with accumulated fatigue, and in that case, I'll keep the same workout, same reps, same pace, same duration, but add a jog recovery instead of standing. And that progress forces you to handle effort while your body's under more stress, which is a very different training effect. And other times, if the progression is about adding more reps, I want the recovery to be as efficient as possible. That usually means standing still or shorter recoveries, so fatigue doesn't drag on too long. So here's how I recommend you think about it. Threshold or view to max workouts, start with the standing rest, then progress into active recovery once you're ready to handle more accumulated fatigue. This is going to depend on the volume of repetitions you are doing and your heart rate recovery. Pure speed or hill sprints, full recovery is the point. Standing or walking is best here. Newer runners, if heart rate recovery is slow, give yourself more rest, often standing to match the intent of the session and keep quality high. So the principle is this: it's not just about how long you rest, it's about what you're doing during that rest and how that aligns with the purpose of the workout. Now, I also want to be transparent that I and my Norwegian coach sometimes do things a little differently. For example, in my threshold and view to max workouts, you'll often see me standing still between reps, even though I know active recovery helps with lactate clearance. For me, the priority is dropping my heart rate faster so I can match the effort I'm targeting. But when I do longer threshold runs like 2Ks or 3K repeats, that's when I'll jog between reps, because the intensity is lower and it helps me stay in rhythm. So while the general principle is to jog or walk, the way I personally approach it depends on the type of session, my goals, and my coach's philosophy. That's also why I pay attention to heart rate recovery. Not to adjust rest during the workout, but as a reflection tool afterwards. My workouts are very controlled, so I'm never completely wiped out. I don't change the recovery on the fly. Instead, I review heart rate recovery after the session as a way to track how my fitness is progressing. For you, the takeaway is this: faster heart rate recovery over time usually means you'll be able to handle more active recovery. Slower heart rate recovery means you may need more standing recovery, especially when you're starting out. It's not about copying exactly what I do, it's about matching your recovery to the intent of the workout and using heart rate recovery as feedback on your fitness journey. Where most people go wrong. Now, if you look around, most coaches will tell you that the mistake runners make is resting too little or too much. But in my experience, that's not really the biggest issue. The real problem is that most runners aren't doing their workouts at the correct intensity. And when the intensity is wrong, suddenly you need way more rest, which means the workout isn't giving your body the right stimulus. I've had quite a few athletes tell me, I think I'm lazy, I just don't push myself enough. But what I usually see is that they either start too hard and then crash, or they misinterpret what their heart rate means. So some of my athletes naturally have a lower max heart rate, and they think they're not working hard enough because their numbers look lower. And that's why your breath is a powerful tool. While yes, there are some people who generally need to push harder, that's actually rare. For most, it's a matter of execution, starting too fast and then giving up, which drops the effort way too low. The other mistake is doing the wrong number of reps for your level. And this is why chasing so-called magical workouts you'll find online can be the worst idea. It's not about copying 4x4 minutes or 20 times 45 15s. What matters is the total amount of time you're spending at a given intensity and how much relative stress that creates for your body and your experience level. That's why having a proper plan with effort targets tailored to your physiology makes such a difference. It takes the guesswork out of training and ensures the workout gives the stimulus it's supposed to. And this is exactly what I've built into my running plans and coaching. And that's why so many athletes I work with are able to stay consistent, avoid injuries, and actually see progress week after week. So let's hear from Leonore about her experience with my heart rate based plans.
Hi, I'm Lenore from Portugal. I started preparing myself with Caroline for Sydney Marathon, and I'm extremely happy. For the first time ever, I went through a marathon block without actually getting injured, which is something amazing for me. It helped me stay consistent throughout the block, and I handed a PB at a very hilly course, and I'm extremely happy. Thank you, Caroline, for everything. I absolutely love your plan.
Let's go through some practical examples. So instead of thinking about magical workouts, I want you to think progression. If you're newer to intervals, a good place to start is something simple, like 1 minute repeats, do maybe 8 of them with standing recovery. Once that feels manageable, the next step is slowly add repetitions. Over time, as your fitness builds and your heart rate recovery improves, you can start transitioning into jogging recoveries and gradually lengthen the reps, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and so on. The key isn't copying someone else's workouts. It's building the right amount of total time at the right effort for your current fitness. And I know this is a lot of detail, so let me simplify it for you. Here's the checklist I use with my athletes to make sure the recovery matches the purpose of the workout. Number 1, what's the purpose of today? Aerobic continuity, shorter jog rests, top end quality, longer rests. 2, are conditions tough? Heat, hills, fatigue, life stress, and rest. 3, is form still crisp? If cadence drops or you're muscling it, you need more recovery. 4, newer runners start with shorter reps like 1 minute times 8 and standing rests. So progress by adding reps, then jogging recovery, then longer intervals as fitness improves. All right, before we wrap up, I want to hit a few FAQs I get all the time about rest. Does the exact rest matter? Yes, because it decides what you're actually training. Is rest person dependent? Absolutely. It depends on fitness, environment, even things like recovery and your cycle phase. Stop, walk, or jog. The usual recommendation is to walk or jog since active recovery helps clear lactate. But personally, I often stand still for my threshold and VO2 session, unless I'm doing longer intervals like 2K or 3K repeats, in which case I'll jog between them. Okay, so that's the quickfire Q&A, but if you want something concrete you can screenshot and take with you, here are the core principles I recommend for rest. This way, your rest matches both the workout and your fitness level. Now, I know this can feel like a lot to figure out. How much rest, when to jog, when to stand. That's why I've built these principles straight into my heart rate based running plans. That way, you don't have to hope you're doing it correctly. My athletes have seen incredible results with this approach. So, Carrie went from a 41-minute 5K down to a 28-minute and Ted cut his 10K time from 55 minutes to 49, and these results came not just from the running, but from managing intensity and recovery properly. The secret to getting faster isn't just how hard you run, it's how you rest in between intervals. So use recovery wisely, match it to the workout, and you'll get the exact training effect you're looking for. If you found this helpful, check out my video on the taper, if the taper is overrated or essential, and dive into my heart rate training playlist. I'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching.